Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
So last year, Bloomberg reporting on some research that showed that women make up less than a quarter of fund managers globally. This was actually according to some data put together and also put out by the nearly $50 billion pension fund HESTA. The biennial survey of about 80 listed and unlisted managers shows progress on gender diversity has marginally improved, with women making up 24% of investment managers compared with 22% in 2020.
Marginally, not significantly improved. So let's bring in Katherine Jollon Colsher, CEO of the nonprofit Girls Who Invest. It's all about transforming the investment management industry by attracting and advancing women investors, change makers, and leaders. And full transparency, Bloomberg is a non-financial supporter of Girls Who Invest. Katherine joins us from New York. Katherine, good to see you. Why do you think improvement has only been marginal and it hasn't been significant? Why is this such an uphill battle?
Thank you, Tim and Carol. I think this is an uphill battle because historically there weren't enough entry-level positions for women in investment management jobs, and therefore there literally weren't enough women to move up the ranks in organizations. And this is an industry where rite of passage still gets a lot of credit. So there's less likelihood of lateral moves, let alone at the C-suite level. So what we're seeing is the need to increase the number of women in investment management and entry-level roles, and then, of course, retaining and advancing those women so that they stay in the industry for the long term.
Katherine, how do we do that? We've been having this conversation, forgive me, I'm going to date myself, for a long time, decade over decade over decade, and we get it.
True.
Like entry-level, men, women, they're kind of on equal terms. And then as we start to go up the food chain in the investment world, it just doesn't pan out. Either women step away, they don't step up because for whatever reasons, or they're not supported. So, how do we get there?
So let me put it into some storytelling and context for you. From a storytelling perspective, very few of us grew up in the dinner table, very few of us women and underserved populations grew up at the dinner table hearing conversations about finance. So first and foremost, from a pipeline perspective, we need to inform individuals about this incredible career. And it is an incredible career. It's stimulating, it satisfies intellectual curiosity, it's well compensated. So there's so many good reasons to join investment management. But the reality is women are not necessarily hearing about this as a career path. And we need it to be dinner table conversation. And I'll put that in some statistics. So we will soon have 3,100 alumni by the end of this summer in just 8 years. For Girls Who Invest, we received 2,700 applications this year for our summer program. So there's tremendous interest in terms of the talent population. And when we look at our alumni population that's working full-time in the workforce, that's 1,200 women and gender non-binary individuals. 75% of them are staying in finance. So, Carol, we're looking to take that population that's staying in finance and continue to invest in their long-term career path. Do they have a mentor? Do they have a sponsor? Do they have paid transparency? Do they understand what it takes to get promoted? Are people investing in their long-term skill development? But you're right, it's not rocket science. It just needs to be done, and it needs to be done well. We are not trying to cure cancer. We are trying to give people a chance to advance in the workforce.
It's one of those things like, stop talking about it. We know how to do it, folks. Just do it,
Correct.
Right?
Let's just do it and do it well and get it done. And with 75% of our population staying in the industry, it's clearly achievable. So that, again, this isn't rocket science and let's do it and get it done. And our talent population comes from over 200 different colleges and universities, has over 100 distinct majors. So let's also emulate what current leaders tend to have, which is liberal arts degrees and diverse academic backgrounds. And now it's so expected that people have gone to an Ivy League school and majored in finance. They'll settle for a major in econ. And that's just not the reality of current leadership. Current leadership was allowed to have more of a liberal arts background, and that was celebrated at the time, and it should be celebrated again.
So, Katherine, what's the metric that you use to make sure that what works at one end of the pipeline keeps working as a career progresses?
So that's exactly right. So we are looking at retention in the industry. First and foremost, our job is to help people enter the industry. And we think that we're doing that in spades. And then our next goal, which is in service of our alumni population, is to make sure that they're staying in the industry. And again, we're seeing that happen at 75%. So it's now about working in partnership with our firms. We have over 120 investment management firms with whom we partner to say, okay, this is your GWI, your Girls Who Invest talent population in-house. How are you working working with them. We have great examples of organizations creating internal affinity groups for their alumni populations. I was just emailing with one earlier today, and they've divided their alumni population into subcommittees, and they're giving them mentorship and sponsorship opportunities. It really is tactical, but it's not hard.
Is it, though, still sometimes difficult for women, young women who are trying to make their way up in the investment management space? I say that like kind of knowing the answer is yes, but tell me what you hear from the folks that you work with and the women you work with.
Absolutely. It's very difficult. And I think the reality is that there's still a lot of moments of being the only in the room. Mm-hmm. So you have to overcome, right? You're wearing multiple identities when you go into that business meeting or when you go into that room or when you're presenting to the investment committee. And those multiple identities, you have to check live in conversation to make sure that you're not being discounted for any of them. And we hear that from our talent population all the time. What's exciting for us, and we exclusively work with a Gen Z talent population as a function of when we've started. What's exciting for us is Gen Z talent does have the vocabulary to address these issues early on in their career. And sometimes that's scary for managers and feels uncomfortable. But the reality is they're going to walk with their feet if they don't like a job, and they're going to get a really good job in return. And they're going to talk about their compensation, and they're going to talk about the mentorship and sponsorship. That being said, it's very clear that there still are systemic barriers to their advancement. And we're here as a support system to help with that.
Katherine, 30 seconds, your advice to a manager in the investment management space.
I have advice is please take your team out for coffee and be informal. It sounds easy, and it is easy, but it really is important to make those personal connections and to open one's door to those conversations. And then, of course, to champion any population in the workforce through mentorship and sponsorship, but advocate for people when they're not in the room.
All right, going to leave it there. Katherine, thank you so much. So appreciate it. Katherine Jollon Colsher, CEO of the nonprofit Girls Who Invest, joining us.